Good afternoon, students. Welcome to your English online class of today. Class. So, students, in the last class, we have just discussed about how Duck was attempting to save Widow Douglas, right? So, Widow Douglas was a lady who was living all alone after the death of her husband, and uh, at the beginning of this story, we know that Huck was secretly following two men, those who were walking out of an inn at night, 11 o'clock. Okay, it was a moonless night where it was dark. We can call it a Samavasi, right? And the darkness helped him to follow these people, and he saw one of the men was carrying a heavy bag, heavy box. So he thought that there may be some valuables, these people may be thieves, there may be some treasure in it, they are going to keep it somewhere secretly, right? They are going to keep it somewhere. So he followed them, and after following them for a certain distance, he come to know that they are taking a turn and moving towards the hill. So he followed them, and he found that they stopped near Widow Douglas' house, and they were speaking, and from their speech he understood that they are going to kill Widow Douglas at that time, because one of the men was sent to prison by Widow Douglas' husband. He came out of the prison with a plan to kill the man who is responsible for sending him to jail. But he came to know the man passed away. He already died. So this crooked man or this cruel man has changed his plan, and he decided to kill his widow, kill his wife. At least he thinks that in that way he can take revenge to that man. So when they reached near Widow Douglas' house, they understood that there are lights in 3 rooms. So they just understood that there is someone in that house with her, or she may not be sleeping at that time. So they decided to wait for some time till the lights go off. Okay. So once the plan was known to Huck, he was trembling with fear because he has to witness a murder. So what he decided is to run to someone and inform. Right. So he ran away from that scene, and he went to a man and reported him all these things. He knocked at the door, and he asked them to let him in. What was the name of that man? Children, can you write? Do you remember the name of the man to whose house this particular Huck has ran to? He asked them to open the door. Right? The man asked who is it and all, and he came with his 3 sons to the doorway. What's the name of that man? Yeah, Harshamol Chandani, it's the correct answer. He was Mr. Jones, right? So Mr. Jones was a brave old man. He was not only brave, but he was ready to do anything to save the people, and he had 2 healthy sons also with him. Right. Once they saw it was Huckleberry Finn who was standing outside, they let him in. They said that what happened wrong, why he is shouting like that. Okay. So after entering the house, Huck took a deep breath, and he sat for some time. Then he started narrating the whole incident to them. So within no time, Mr. Jones and his 2 sons carrying guns ran towards Mrs. Douglas, Widow Douglas' house. And Huck could hear the sound of shot. That means somebody has shot at someone, right? So he was very horrified. Huck was horrified to hear the shooting sound. So he ran to his home and jumped on his bed and slept. The very next morning, he came to Mr. John's house to know what had happened at that night. Right? So, Mr. John's, he has offered Huck tea to drink. He told him, he asked Huck to join with them for the breakfast because they were having their breakfast. Right. So he invited Huck also to join for the breakfast. Till this we discussed in the last class. Am I right, children? Okay. So now let's see. Huck sat down at the table, but he could not eat anything. Why? Can you just think? Huck sat down at the table. Huck sat down at the breakfast table, which was having a lot of variety of food at Mr. John's house. But Huck couldn't eat anything. What may be the reason? Can anybody know? Anybody type it? It's not yes, no. Okay, madam, this is not what I am asking you to type. I'm asking you, can you guess why Huck was not able to eat anything? Type the answer. Yes, Priyanshu Balki, that is one of the reason is fear. He was recollecting the things which happened, and because of that great fear, he may not be able to do that. Any other reason? Because he has fear. Any other reason? He was looking. Who was looking? Mr. Jones was looking at him. That's why. Okay, that may be a reason. Because he may not be feeling comfortable. Okay. And more than that, he wanted to know what has happened at night. He was having high curiosity. He was having high curiosity along with the fear, whether anything will happen to him or not, who was shot as the night before, right? So these two mixed feelings made him unable to eat anything. Now you look ill, Huck, said Mr. Jones. This is what we have completed in the last class. He said to Huck looks sick. So he asked Huck to have a cup of tea. And then slowly, Mr. Jones started telling him, right? So Mr. Jones told him that they were not able to catch the criminals. Okay. But he told him one information that one of them was shot. They have shot one among these two. And next happy news which he told him is that we have told the men in the village they are going to search the woods for these criminals. Can you tell me what they look like? Well, said Huck slowly. One of them is that Spaniard. You have seen him about the village. With this word Spaniard, I have entered the class in the last class. So Mr. Jones said one of the men was wounded, so he cannot go far away with a bleeding wound. He may be there somewhere in the bushes or in the forest nearby. So they have informed the villagers to search and find these two. Right, they can't go so far away. They have informed already the villagers. So the villagers are in search of these two. And he asked Huck whether he could recognize any of them. So Huck says that one is that Spaniard. Spaniard means a person from Spain. We people from India are called Indians, right? People from Pakistan is called Pakistanis. The same way people from Spain are called Spaniards. So he has got long white hair and he is dumb. The other fellow is a stranger. He is tall and thin and he is wearing old clothes. So he said that one was the Spaniard. And the Spaniard has got long white hair. The person from the Spain has a white hair and he is dumb. He cannot hear properly, right? The other fellow, the next one was a stranger about whom Huck has no idea. He says he is tall, thin, and he was wearing old clothes. That's all the boy has given us an information to Mr. Jones. I know them both, Mr. Jones said. Then he asked, what made you follow them? So Mr. Jones, as an old man and experienced man, he knows how to take the informations from Huck very well. So he simply said, I know them both. मैं ये दोनों को पहचानता हूँ. So Huck will come to know, अरे यार, इनको पहले ही पता है. So he will feel little bit confident to say more. Then he asked, what made you to follow them? आप क्यों ये लोगों को पीछा किया है? Why? What made? Then he said, well, I couldn't sleep. I went for a walk. I saw those two. You know, whatever has happened, we already know. He has just told Mr. Jones. One of them was carrying a heavy box. He has stolen something. I thought I will follow him. They went towards the river. Then they turned right and went up the path and that leads to Widow Douglas' house. I was close behind them all the way. I could hear almost every word they said. So he was again telling everything that it was a sleepless night for him. So he came out of home. He saw these people coming out of the inn. He saw them carrying the heavy box. He thought it's a treasure. They are going to hide it in some place. He thought so. He just followed them to know the spot. So then he says that then he saw these people turning to Widow Douglas' house and there this particular conversation took place and he came to know their plan, everything he said. When they reached Widow Douglas' house, they stopped, they began talking. But isn't it that Spaniard dumb? Asked Mr. Jones. So Mr. Jones and Mr. Huck and all these people, they were thinking the Spaniard was dumb because he was acting like that in the public as if he cannot hear anything. But he was a very clever man. He wants to know what people are talking. So he just imitate and he just act as if he cannot hear anything. So the people speak very boldly in front of him, thinking that he cannot hear. So he come to know what others are speaking. He was such a type of a man, right? So here, uh, Mr. Jones also got a doubt. When they reached Widow Douglas' house near Widow Douglas, they stopped. Widow Douglas after yes, then apostrophe yes, you can see. It means that Widow Douglas' house. Once they reached near Widow Douglas' house, they stopped and they began talking. Who will talk? If two people must talk between each other, then both must be able to listen what the other is speaking, right? That's why Mr. Jones asked, but isn't that Spaniard dumb? तो Spaniard तो dumb है ना, उसको सुनाई नहीं देता ना. So now Huck says the surprise. He said, oh no, he isn't. He is. He says, no, he isn't. He's not a dump at all. He can hear very well. He is. He was going to say who is that man. Because Huck know who is this Spaniard. But he was not ready to say it. Okay. So it's dangerous for him to reveal the identity. So Huck was about to say he is. Then immediately he stopped. Okay. He was telling the old man too much. He did not want to get into more trouble. He had had enough. तो हक को जॉन्स के ऊपर भरोसा नहीं है. He is not trusting Mr. Jones to reveal more information. He thinks that if he say more to Mr. Jones, he may tell it to police or someone else, and Huck will have a lot of trouble. That's why he just stopped. Now, how Mr. Jones will make him to speak, you know, there are techniques with this old man. He's not an ordinary man as we think. I'm enlarging it so that people can read it properly. Who is he? The old man asked. Tell me, my boy. Don't be afraid. We are your friends and you can trust us. He spoke so kindly that Huck answered. He is Red Joe. So the man understood that Huck has great hesitation to reveal this information with him. He is feeling hesitation that he has a doubt of Mr. Jones may put him in trouble later. So he says, my dear boy, अरे यार हम तो आपका दोस्त है ना, हम आपके खिलाफ थोड़ी कुछ करेंगे. हाँ, ट्रस्ट अस, हमको विश्वास में लीजिए, बताइए कौन है वो. हाँ, हम आपको कोई परेशानी देने वाला तो नहीं हूँ. He spoke so kindly to Huck. हक को अभी थोड़ा सा ट्रस्ट बन गया. हक felt okay, these people are trustworthy, they will not put me in trouble, he thought. Then he says the name of the man. What is the name of the man, children? Write it immediately. He says the name of the man. He is Dash. Write the name of the man. Hurry up. All of you fast. Hurry up, hurry up. What is the name of the man? Yes. Shreya covered our answer is correct. But R and J should be capital letter. Akshara More, Krishna Yadav. Use capital letter, children. Prabhas Sharma not at all using capital letter. Tripti use capital letters. Farhan Khasi capital letter. Bhargav has used very well. Akshara More. What is this, Nodan? What is this answer? Joe J should be capital letter. Okay. Yeah, he was Red Joe, not Joey. Okay, he was Red Joe. Red Joe! The old man nearly jumped off his chair in his excitement. Red Joe? He repeated. When he heard the name, it was Red Joe. My goodness. Mr. Jones was so frightened that he almost jumped off his chair. चेयर के ऊपर चढ़ने का जैसा उतना जम किया, उठ गया. हाँ, रेड जो, really it was red Joe. So you will come to know who is red Joe, right? He could not believe his ears. Yes, red Joe. Now Huck says, yes, वो तो red Joe ही था. Are you sure? Yes, I recognized his voice. Huck says, मुझे उसकी आवाज बिल्कुल पहचान में आया है. Well, the old man could find no words to say what he thought. His sons stopped eating. The old man was about to say something, but because of his fear, he also couldn't find words to say what he was feeling. Okay. And when his sons heard that it's Red Joe on whom they have attacked the previous night, they also stopped eating. They couldn't believe they have attacked Red Joe. They were looking at Huck with their mouth wide open. Huh? लो ऐसा mouth Huck को देखा. Huh? Their eyes were as big as saucers. Means because of fear and excitement, आंखें बड़ा हो गया, मुंह खुल गया. हाँ, said the old man at last. Now I understand. At that moment, Widow Douglas came in. She came to ask for news about the robbers. So, who was Red Joe was a very cruel criminal. Red Joe was a very cruel criminal. And Mr. Douglas gave information about him to the police and he was caught. And before he went to the jail, he was a terror in that area. In that place, wherever they were living, he Red Joe के नाम सुनने से सभी लोग डरते थे. He was such a type of a criminal who never hesitated to kill people, steal people, loot people, and he was a social nuisance in that area. Nobody was there to say that if some crime is done, suppose Red Joe killed someone, nobody was ready to say that I have seen this murder. Nobody was ready to say as eyewitness. Because if anybody says, Red Joe will kill them also. Right? He was such a cold-blooded murderer and he was a criminal in that area. Okay? All people were afraid of him. At that place only, Widow Douglas' husband has shown the courage to send him to the jail. Okay? So now when they heard, when Red Joe was in jail, all these people were happy. Arey yaar, oh, okay, yeah. Now, when they came to know that the Spaniard who was dressed up, he dressed up, Red Joe has dressed up as a Spaniard, and he was staying in this same village. But he has fit a long white hair, and he behaved as if he is dumb. He has done a lot of makeovers, so people couldn't recognize him. And people were not knowing that he came out of jail. Right? So now Mr. Jones says, now I understand. अभी उसको समझ में आया क्यों रेड जो मिसिस डॉगलास को मारने के लिए प्लान किया है. एट दैट मोमेंट जब उन्होंने बाकी बोलने के लिए था तभी someone came into their house. Who came in, children? Please type. Who came to their house? Their house means who came to Mr. Douglas' house while they were having breakfast. Come on, type the name of the person. Who came to their house? Who came to Mr. John's house while they were having? Huck came. Okay, Huck came first. Now Huck is there without a... Sorry, Mr. Jones and his son are eating food. At that time, who came now? Huck came previously, na? Now while they were speaking, who came? Huck and Mr. Jones and their son are speaking. So at the end, when Mr. John says, now I understand, at that moment, who came in? So are you listening the story or not? Wow, Gaurav Chauhan. Red Joe came into their bedroom, into their house. Payal sir, capital letter has to be used. Yes, it's Widow Douglas who came there. Why she came? She came to ask for the news about the robbers. She wanted to know whether they could catch the robbers or not. She wanted to know what had happened to them. वो लोगों को क्या हुआ है वो जानने के लिए आई. Mr. Jones and his sons told her the story. They said at night they have shot them and they are in the woods. The village people are searching for them. And they said they had a plan to kill Widow Douglas. When they had finished, Widow Douglas was trembling with fear and excitement. When Widow Douglas came to know that these people were targeting Widow Douglas and it was Red Joe and all these things, she was trembling with fear. Trembling means shivering with fear and also excitement that bach gayi. All right. How can I talk? How can I thank you? She asked with the tears in her eyes. वो इतना खुश हो गई उसकी आँख से अश्रु निकलने लगी. You saved my life. मैं कैसे आपको thanks बोलूँ? हाँ? आप लोग मेरा जिंदगी बचा दिया. You mustn't thank me. The old man said. It was not me. It was. He stopped. अरे आप मुझे धन्यवाद मत कहिए. ये मैं नहीं हूँ जो आपके लिए मदद किया. वो जो है फिर immediately he stopped. He wanted to say it was Huck who saved you from Red Joe. But he had promised Huck to keep his name out of the story. He did not want Huck to get into more trouble. So उन्होंने उतना बोल के वहाँ चुप रखा. क्योंकि Huck, when he was not ready to say the name of Red Joe, so Mr. Jones has assured and promised him that he will not say his name. That means Huck's name anywhere. He may say that he has seen the man like that. He will change the story, but he will not take the name of Huck because he is a small boy. He don't want to give him any trouble. When he assured, then only Huck said the name of Red Joe. So he know that he has promised Red Joe that Huck that his name will not be used anywhere. So he wanted to keep up the promise. So he did not tell Widow Douglas also the name of Huck, and he don't want Huck to have more trouble. So this particular story is written by Mark Twain, the greatest writer. Okay, children, all of you write the name of this writer. What is the name of this writer? What is the name of the writer of this story? Or who is the writer of this story? Children, here is your link and read the text properly. Find the answers yourself and post. I have posted the attendance link. You people can post your attendance immediately and leave the class because I know it is time for you to join the other class. Yes, Mark Twain. With this, I end today's class. Children, we will discuss the question and answers in the next class because you have